Hello and welcome to Fidelity Connects. I'm Pamela Ritchie. Artificial intelligence continues to dominate market conversations, but for advisors, the real question is how to separate hype from long-term value when speaking with clients. As we continue to navigate the evolving AI landscape, our next guest makes a clear distinction between efficiency and proficiency, arguing that in financial services, AI's real value is enabling advisors to handle more complex questions with greater confidence and grounded in their firm's data and context. Today, very pleased to welcome back Louis Têtu. He is Executive Chairman of Coveo, a Canadian-founded global AI software company, working with companies, financial institutions, the public sector, organizations within it, for a look at how you, advisors, can think about AI's real impact on productivity and long-term growth. Warm welcome to you, Louis. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Pamela.
Delighted to have a chance to speak with you here. We invite everyone to send questions in to Louis for the next, 20 minutes, half an hour, so get your questions ready in the lineup there. Coveo is a company that is subscription-based. Why is it not a software company on steroids? How do we need to think about your company differently?
Well, what Coveo does is essentially we provide the tooling and the platform that helps you ground AI models into enterprise data. So fundamentally, inherently, AI doesn't understand your data. So in the consumer world, we know ChatGPT and perhaps other engines, Perplexity and so on. As you apply AI within the enterprise, you deal with secure data, you deal with data that is highly distributed, you need to govern it. And then at the other end, the output needs to be not only secure, but precise and traceable and governed. So all the AI plumbing that actually it's called relevance technology and all the connectivity and the search engines and personalization engines that connect that data and deliver that hyper-personalization, whether it's conversational experiences or commerce experiences or experiences for the advisors you described. This is what we do for large corporations, about 1,000, and governments across the world.
And how does it lead to what we were mentioning there, those working within the organization to become more proficient? Because you think of efficiency, and efficiencies often means things like layoffs because you need less people to do it. What do you mean by proficiency? I mean, I think we know what it means, but in this context.
Right. I think it's a way to think about the pre-AI period in technology and the post-AI period. And AI, that being said, has been in existence, for
a while now.
15 years. But generative AI in particular, made it very obvious, very tangible, very intuitive. As we all now have integrated in our daily lives. The world pre-AI, the world of software was essential, and no matter what it does, whether it's supply chain management or for financial advisors or CRM or ERP, anything, essentially you created a data model, you created a set of business rules, and then on top of that, you have some sort of engagement layer that lets you manipulate the data, that lets you manage your workflows, and that lets you do your work and help. But it was mostly, as you mentioned, Pamela, about efficiency, doing more of the same faster, more efficiently, more consistently. Comes AI, you're dealing with human augmentation, you're dealing with proficiency. So the ability of AI now is not to let you do more faster, but to let you, every individual, me and you, do more on your own. So if you think of that in terms of a bank, suddenly you have, let's say you have a bank with 10,000 workers, 10,000 employees. How about if every single one of these employees can suddenly process 50 or 30, 50, 100% more complexity on their own? 95% faster, 100% of the time. What happens when that happens? What happens when your customers who have access to your products and services, but also can gather instantly, can stitch instantly a broader view of a theme, whether it's a vertical industry or a stock or whatever. What happens when these consumers suddenly are more educated? It raises the bar.
You've got
for
stronger
everyone.
soldiers
That's
for
right.
the CEO and management to work with. From there, what what kind of problems can, for instance, a CEO trying to direct its company in arguably a changing world, what can they do with their stronger soldiers, for instance?
Well, I think they can serve customers better. Again, they can handle more complex projects. They can recuperate knowledge also in an incremental way. One of the fundamental issues of large and small organizations is that they tend to iterate, and it's very discontinued.
What's
sometimes,
that mean, iterate and
well,
discontinue?
iterate and discontinued means sometimes the left arm doesn't know what the right arm is doing, and people tend to reinvent the wheel. Suddenly, you have an ability to constantly aggregate knowledge and learn from that and bring it to everyone's fingertips in real time. So the fundamental breakthrough that people are discovering about AI right now is that which is a novel capability, is that it can stitch fragments of information from anywhere and literally stitch them in real time and deliver them in a very tailored way.
In a report
I like the stitch and tailor analogy,
I like
so
that
people
too.
understand. But it will stitch that information and tailor it. Prior to that, we were in the software allowed you to retrieve existing information. The right information, we got really good at relevance over the years, with search engines and so on. But it was essentially retrieving and giving you, let's say, a document that already exists, or whatever the information you're looking at, a product or any kind of information, whether you want to learn something, buy something, fix something, it's always the same thing. It's the user's intent. Now with AI, you're literally stitching a novel. The result you get didn't exist anywhere. It's from fragments. It's called vectorized. It's what inference engines allow you to do. You vectorize information from multiple sources. So, number of corollaries. Number one, you don't need to move data anymore. So
that's interesting.
So for instance, Microsoft offers Copilot, but it's only in the Microsoft ecosystem.
Yes.
Salesforce offers Agentforce, but it's only you need to put all the data in Data Cloud and so on. What CIOs are realizing right now is that data can be assembled, can be stitched from anywhere. So it just exploded the world, and it creates a very horizontal landscape for the software industry, which is why there's so much angst right now about the siloed applications and the seed-based software companies and so on. I think some of it is exaggerated probably, but some of it is true also.
Because it's disrupting, as you say, the way that people are competing, because you can just compete across without needing data siloed in companies in certain ways. We'll talk about the market. There's been a sell-off. We'll talk about that in a sec, and maybe the disillusionment there. The government of Canada, along with every other government on the planet, is trying to figure out where they go from here. Many of your clients, as I understand it, are international, actually are not Canadian. Does that have to do with those countries' domiciled policies on AI? Do they have better ones than we do? Why not Canada? Why aren't your clients in Canada yet?
Well, historically, we grew internationally, and yes, today, Coveo does about 200 million in subscription for our platform, and yes, 97% of that is outside of Canada. Part of it is that historically, we can talk about that, but part of it is historically Canada has not been an early adopter of technology, has not been a strong adopter of technology.
We teach people in schools, though. We're great education
We do. We're in love. Well, Canada historically, and even today, we are absolutely in love with research and science. Monetization and industrialization, we don't care. In fact, so much so that we've given away, that's another topic, but we've given away our talent. We were proud when foreign companies came and hired the produce of our masters and PhDs to come here, work on the ground in Montreal, Toronto, and et cetera. I think that's changing, keeping our talent, because talent and energy are the constraints of, it's not going to be an AI war, it's going to be a talent and energy war at the end of the day.
Okay, and I want to talk about energy. So back to your clients being all over the world. What do they sort of have in terms of a grounding that allows them to go there, rather than Canadian ones?
I think large organizations across the world, and some of our clients here in Canada and so on, were fast to embrace AI, to realize that AI is there to stay. And AI is the new modern paradigm. As consumers, we're starting to understand it and integrate it in our day-to-day lives. 3 years ago, we were all excited because we could write poems on our iPhones with ChatGPT on Saturday evening with friends. Now, as we've evolved, we ask complex questions, we get answers, as I said before, stitched for us in real time. We are gaining proficiency as consumers, et cetera. And we've adopted this, and the people, arguably, sometimes the younger generation and so on, who adopted AI is more proficient, more efficient also as a result. Enterprises, across the world have been, in some segments, a lot of them in technology initially. If you look at Coveo, in 2019, 85% of our customers were the large tech companies. NVIDIA, Dell, Intel, Salesforce.com, HP, they're all customers of Coveo. And so they were the early adopters who understood the plumbing required and the need for this in areas such as customer service and e-commerce and so on. I think now the world is catching up. Like any market, there's early adopters, there's a maturity curve, and yes, there's a bit of a period of inflated expectations and disillusionment also that came along the way.
Are we there now, do you think?
I think we are. I think we are at a period of disillusionment a little bit because agentic, the readiness of agentic was absolutely overblown for once. But also we're at a period of maturity. ChatGPT created a lot of confusion. There's this big thing, and in fact, to a degree, in enterprises, AI became a technology in search of problems, which is very fascinating. And because normally it's the other way around. And now I think the market and people have gained a lot of understanding of the components and how do you peel the onion. And again, AI is an ambient technology. It's going to be everywhere and so on. It is already proliferating in everything. I always say if I have a tumor tomorrow, I knock on wood, I don't.
Please don't. Yeah.
I want my radiologist to use AI to read my images because it's augmentation. Because it's so AI is ambient, it's everywhere. I think the way to exploit AI, the way to tame it, the way to govern it, the way to understand it, without hallucinating, without breaching security of data, while maximizing and to create real benefits and so on, is starting to be better understood. It took about 3 years since the launch of ChatGPT for that to happen.
We spoke earlier, and you mentioned the beginning of sort of nuclear technology as another technological revolution, and it very quickly went in the direction of energy, obviously, solving energy problems for certain countries. I mean, Japan is an amazing example of that, but it also essentially was the atomic bomb, and so it was a fear. And there's a lot of that attached to that. You mentioned there might have been a different approach, and then quite a different era afterwards. How is it similar to today?
Well, I think if you look at Canada, unfortunately, in that case, I believe it's unfortunate. I think it's changing, but the narrative, first of all, it's very clear that AI can have, fairly bad ramifications in certain types of use. And we're thinking about defense, military, and warfare, and all of that. That being said, a lot of the narrative, I would say here in Quebec and to a degree in Ontario and Canada, a lot of the narrative, I would say 75% of the narrative over the past few years initially was about governance and ethics. And yes, that's important. But when you cross the border and you go to Europe and you go to Asia and you go to the United States, it's the other way around. 70% of the narrative is about how do we make money with this, frankly, in plain English. How do we boost our economy? How do we become more productive, more efficient, et cetera? And I think the analogy was just as a metaphor, as any metaphor, it's never perfect, but if the world had embraced nuclear on the positive side for energy 80 years ago, maybe we wouldn't have the climate change problems or as much as we have today. Nuclear energy, and but humanity took a position of fear. I'm not arguing one way or another. I'm just saying that AI is here, and you got to take advantage of it because it is from an impact perspective, it is the most binary and brutal technology wave we've ever seen. meaning that in business in particular, the world will be squarely divided between the adopters and the non-adopters. So you have a contact center, you're going to cut 20% of that contact center within 90 days and another 10 to 20%.
Hello investors, we'll be back to the show in just a moment. I wanted to share that here at Fidelity, we value your opinion. Please take a few minutes to help us shape the future of Fidelity Connect's podcasts. Complete our listener survey by visiting fidelity.ca/survey, and you could win one of our branded tumblers. Periodic draws ending by March 30th, 2026. And don't forget to listen to Fidelity Connects, The Upside, and French Dialogue Fidelity podcasts, available on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Now back to today's show.
There are new industries that no one saw. I was reading something, this is just an example, in Spain, they put it to work for garbage management, essentially. So the recycling center has the conveyor belt with the empty yogurt container and the glass bottle and whatever, and identifies which is which. And then, rather than an individual, a robotic arm sticks out, pulls it off, puts it in with the glass. You don't have to touch the garbage.
The convergence of AI and robotics is something to watch for.
Really?
Clearly,
Okay.
It's a huge sector because AI makes robots intelligent in a way, quote unquote. You know, the ability to, in this case, it's AI vision. In fact, we're investors with Fidelity, but I'm an investor also in a company here in Montreal named Vention, and that's what we do. You know, there's AI involved in robotics, you know, for vision and so on. So it opens a number of opportunities, and the bottom line is you won't lose your company to AI. You won't lose your job to AI. You will use your company against a competitor using AI. Right. You will lose your job against someone competing against someone using AI. So that's really the paradigm. Every technology wave has been fundamentally driven, you know, the winners have been driven by the adoption of it. You cannot deny its existence.
No.
You cannot deny its benefits. You cannot deny the quantum leap. And so you need to be on the good side and adopt it. You're not about debating whether it should exist or not. It does.
So let's talk about what role government takes in shepherding this along faster, probably getting it moving faster. You've been on the task force for the Minister of AI, Evan Solomon. He's expected actually to announce the AI strategy or policy pretty soon. Right. So do you know what's in it? The policy? Did you help write it?
I don't know all the details of it. I know some of the inputs,
the goals,
but I don't know
what would the goals be? You know, Canada is trying to figure this out.
The goal, first of all, as a practical matter, the number one goal will be to create a sovereign AI compute infrastructure in Canada, and what that means essentially. What sovereignty means, and it's not really well understood. I see a lot of things in the media, sovereignty. People think sovereignty is about having a data center in Canada or et cetera. It is not the case. In the case of a data center, if you take a data center and block and connect 80 megawatts on it and Microsoft Office 365 fills the data center, you just exported the value add of the electricity, even if it's on our ground. So it's not sovereign. What sovereignty means is nobody can turn off Canada. That's what it means.
What's that mean? No one can turn off Canada. So if a company,
it means five primitives, five things essentially. So first of all, it means full governance and authority. So authority over, first of all, networks. So 5G, fiber, and satellite. So full authority over these communications.
So these are telecom companies, satellite companies.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Full authority over that. Authority means we have the on-off switch, and we control all of it, 100%. Authority over compute, which means all the actual compute, we have full authority. It's typically on our ground. Authority over data residency and persistency.
So sorry, just to back up, computation happens here.
That's right. That's
it
right.
actually happens on
full
Canadian
authority.
ground.
And you have full authority over it.
Okay.
Then authority over data persistency and residency. So the data needs to reside here, but it doesn't. It goes hand in hand with a fourth one, which is authority over data movement. Because today, even if the data resides here, it crosses the border for processing. It goes over the internet. It could even go to Europe and come back.
Even if
over
the
internet.
computation happens here?
Even if some of the computation, because some of the movement of the data can be because of API calls and et cetera. So you need to bring that back.
You could back it up in Spain or something. You could back it up somewhere else.
It's mostly around the processing. It will cross the border. Arguably encrypted and all that, but it'll still be processed elsewhere, and then it could be seized. And then the last one is authority over identity and trust, because a lot of your identity processing happens with software that is not governed here.
So you go into your phone, you use your facial
That's right.
recognition.
That information,
Where is that
there's
happening?
no guarantee. So right now, every country, Germany, France, every country right now is looking to build what so-called sovereign clouds that check all these marks. It'll take a bit of time, okay. And all the cloud services that are used need to be brought on land as well, which is the hard part. Which is when you use an AWS or an Azure or a Google Cloud. It's not just the storage and the compute, it's all the services, it's billions of dollars of R&D that was spent on delivering all the services that software applications use. And so all this needs to be disconnected right now from foreign, from mostly the US and sovereign, and that's a key goal.
Of a lot of countries?
And that phenomena is happening all over the world. Right
because
now.
Every country, is probably connected to the U.S. models and multinationals. I mean, it doesn't mean that multinationals can't exist.
That's right.
It means what?
It means that especially critical industries. First of all, governments, regulated industries.
Yes. Okay.
So from TransCanada Pipeline to the Pearson Airport to the railroad to the government and the provincial government and the institutions and the hospitals, need to work here. But it goes all the way to your payment system. I think things like the SWIFT system right now and so on is going to be challenged, in an environment like that and so on. So it has huge ramifications. It won't happen overnight, but it's certainly a major trend, and so on. And AI is obviously, fueling, I think, that threat and desire. And frankly, if we push further, what's around the corner in 5 years from now is quantum.
And it'll
quantum
have
computing.
to.
That's right.
Okay, so there's a great question here, and then I will ask you about energy. So we might go just a little bit longer with Louis Têtu today. We'll go about maybe 10 minutes longer. So to be a world player, does the industrial base in Canada have to grow significantly before AI can be implemented meaningfully at a business level?
You mean if it
so
rephrase the question.
Let's say, I would say, do you need to have sort of the building blocks of the policy first set before you can start growing at an enterprise business level?
I hope not.
Well, you've already done it. How have you done it? What's the message for companies and businesses who think about,
The message is the same for companies and businesses, is embrace it, and if you think you're embracing it fast, embrace it faster. That's the message for companies.
Really? Okay.
And in order to do that, bring people in your ranks. There's sort of this fantasy that you can outsource this, that you can just go hire KPMG or something, or PwC or some third party that will transform your company with AI. I don't see that working.
So that answers a big question.
You need to bring talent in your ranks.
So it's about an organic story for most companies.
100%.
Because at one point we weren't sure.
100% in organic, so you cannot also outsource that. And the reason is AI is not a department. AI is ambient.
I see. Okay.
It is not. It's a capability. It's a broad, enterprise-wide capability. It is not a department.
All of those 5 things that you talked about, the compute, having national industries, making sure they're physically here and that the information is protected, the pieces of the policy essentially, they all need to plug into energy. We have tons of it here, tons of it.
Well,
some of it's harder to get out of the ground. Some of it's harder to, make it happen through green types of energy and so on. But we do have a lot of it. Does that put us in a different place?
No, I don't think it's a snapshot of today. I think you got to project it in the future. If you look at the U.S., for instance, in my view, and not only my view, I think it's broad in the news. Energy is going to be the Achilles heel. And the reason is that if you look back 6 years ago, the growth of energy demand, pretty much on a North American basis, it was essentially the economic growth minus the energy efficiency.
Yeah.
So it boiled down to about 0.8%. AI adds 2%, crypto adds 0.6%, and global warming adds 1.2%. You haven't even talked about economic growth yet. And so, and the capability to generate energy, the fastest way to generate energy is renewable. And we know that, apparently, some people don't like that. And it takes 3 years to do solar or windmills or other types of renewable. It takes 9 years to build a refinery. It takes 17 years to build a nuclear plant. And then
Can we speed that up with AI?
Well, the Chinese build a dam within 5 years and a nuclear plant within 5 years. But we don't have the governance that allows us.
We have different labor laws.
We have different
thankfully.
labor laws. We have different environmental laws. We have a lot of governance. So, could we here in Quebec launch today a project like James Bay, in the 70s? Could we relaunch that? I think it's a valid question. I think the answer needs to be yes. I don't think it is yes yet.
Okay.
But what I do know is mathematically we will need it. The AI war will not be about AI. It will be about energy and talent.
I mean, we see that in all of the geopolitical discussions right now of decoupling, of making things more regional, using the resources within North and South America as one theory and discussion of policy, and energy as well, rather than sending it across oceans. I mean, there's lots of this under the tectonic plates that are shifting. Right. Do you have any comment on that? I mean, I'm not really sure what the question is there, but there is a global search for energy and resources for sure.
And there will be for a while, despite the fact that, arguably there is a possibility and even a probability that there will be some major efficiency gains from what's called energy efficiency per token.
Okay.
Essentially, where you're going to gain much more efficient GPU type technology, energy efficient. But even if you do that, the Moore's law still applies. It fuels demand. And the issue with AI is that AI compounds AI. For the first time, a technology compounds itself because the technology itself creates new innovation faster. And so it's a compounding effect. And the more powerful AI becomes, the more powerful it becomes to create new versions of it.
Which is why it's dangerous and scary too.
It could be a scary thought, but if you translate that into the need for energy, consumption, way beyond the current supply forecasts, I think the logic says that this will be the constraint.
Do you think ultimately that we'll run out of data? I mean, it's sort of a broad question, but so let's say you go through the process of most companies and industries and governments and so on, sort of converting and having fragmented data sort of done. The conversion is done. What's adding new data? I don't know, a decade out. What's adding the new data?
I cannot think. My crystal ball doesn't go a decade out, but the capability right now is exponential. We're creating data exponentially faster. I don't think. Look, I'm not sure we'll run out of data, or I'm not sure we'll have too much data. I'm not sure how to answer that. Data is like electrons. There's a lot of electrons in the world, and the world makes sense with it. It's the same thing as long as we have the capability to process it, which I believe will continue.
Will continue to grow.
Musk just talked about sending data processing in space, which
why is that a good
arguably
or a
makes
bad
sense.
idea?
Oh, you know what? I'm not an expert on that. It's so recent and nascent. Would need to think more about this. But I think from an engineering perspective, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Because it's endless energy. It's endless energy, and arguably it can. The space offers some eliminates a lot of the constraints of data centers, data processing, heating. Energy, a whole bunch of things.
It's nice and cold. It's cold here too.
It's nice and cold. You got energy. It's nice and cold. You get pressure environments and so on. Anyway,
It's like the moon here. It's
yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not an expert in that.
Okay. So how does Canada become a leader here? Let's just sort of go to what do we need to prune and take care of here first for us to jump ahead? This is
My personal view on that. Great question, because my personal view is, and again, we'll see Minister Solomon's policy and so on, but I think leader at what, right?
Right.
People said leader in AI. No,
Which part?
that's like too bright. Which part? You will not be the leader in AI. Why? Because there's considerable capital deployed in some of these core technologies. I mean, think about, can Canada replicate NVIDIA? I think the answer is pretty obvious. Or can Canada, create the next OpenAI? Not sure about that. Whether OpenAI is going to be the winner or not, I'm not arguing for that necessarily. But I think so if we pick our battles, like we say, my personal view is where we can be a leader is in adoption. The government can be a catalyst to drive efficient adoption if we create with our telcos, I know there's a big initiative in Canada, which I admire personally, which is Bell AI Fabric, and everything they're building around it. And frankly, we're working with them also. But the reason is what Bell wants to create, and it's really the future of Bell Business Markets, is essentially an AI on tap infrastructure that essentially is a turnkey stack from the network to the compute to the data to the connectivity into your business and all of that to the use cases. We bring it all to you, and then being able to bring that into businesses.
So it's the railroads of the Canadian AI infrastructure.
There you go. 100 years ago, we built railroads. Now it's about building the AI on tap. I hope that the Canadian strategy will lean a lot around the industrialization and adoption. And I'll give you a contrast, for instance, up till now, so back to the Canada loves science and not so much industrialization, is if you look at AI right now, we've applied a lot of our technology, and granted, it was the sign of times also, but we've applied a lot of our technology on very finite problems. So let's use AI to optimize smelters at Rio Tinto.
Very specific.
And very specific. Well, that's nice, but how many of your neighbors have a smelter in their backyards?
Right.
How repeatable is that? You need Canada, you need 50,000 businesses to leverage AI at scale within the next 3 years. You need to industrialize that. You need to create repeatable technology and bring that to market and drive adoption. And you need the government to facilitate that infrastructure, like the railroad, and you need the government to help, at least be supportive, not stand in the way.
Yeah, right.
Which is already a good step for any government, but then be supportive of incenting adoption of that technology, again, for greater set of reasons, also in a sovereign, fashion. And I hope that's what we see happening. We can be a leader in adoption, and then the impact of that is our economy will increase, our productivity will increase in the G20 and et cetera.
The government needs money to do a lot of those things. Can they take a look at they're doing this now. The public service is due to be shrunk, and we know this. I think one of the examples you used was, CRA is going to deploy AI in ways that it can free up Canadians' time having to sit on the phone, for instance, for too long. And actually, those employees at CRA spending too much time on small questions and so on. It can do that. These are the types of places where it'll free up taxpayer money, we assume.
That's right. I think which is the consequence of which? It's a bit the chicken and the egg. Are you cutting people because I think right now what's happening is you're shrinking the government because you need to, and because too much government is standing in the way of productivity, and then as a consequence of that, you need technology to support that, to increase, because the challenge, as any business has, is to be more cost efficient and increase the quality of the service. They can't say we're gonna cut costs and reduce service levels. So you need to offer. So CR is a good example. You need to offer better services to Canadians, So they can stop having to call the CRA and self-serve. With generative AI, it's very possible. And then when you do call, you need these agents to be empowered, to be equipped in a way that they can provide accurate answers to Canadian citizens. And the corollary of that is you're going to save millions of hours. Right now, we have the estimate, actually, about the millions of hours that the government wastes citizens.
Like
So, and that's a
Okay.
productivity gain also. That's a
Right.
positive impact because, you know, if and it's not a hard criticism on the government. Every government in the world is like that,
Absolutely.
every organization. But if you stop wasting 5 million hours of Canadians because they can self-serve, they can, you know, nobody wakes up in the morning with a burning desire to talk to a contact center. So whether it's immigration or your taxes or your permits or whatever, if you can solve that, you're going to give back millions of hours to Canadians that you can turn into productivity as well. So it's this positive spiral that is enabled here that can really be highly transformative.
It's really fascinating how all of this comes together. Use some of the examples that you just used for CRA, for instance, efficiencies, proficiencies, and so on, and apply it to, say, an oil services company, or, you know, the companies that are going to create the conditions for more energy, for instance,
Yeah.
or any company really. But let's take oil services, and then maybe we'll look at a financial company.
We do business with Schlumberger.
Yeah, I was setting up for that.
Schlumberger is a client of Coveo, and so we provide all the generative AI for people in the field across the world at Schlumberger.
Like
that
individuals
actually,
in the field.
That's right. So
Okay.
we sift through all the engineering files and the millions of documents and maintenance records and
Wow.
you know, technical stuff and so on that is scattered across the world in multiple languages and all of that, and bring it all together. We can literally stitch a piece of a Spanish document with a piece of a Chinese or Japanese document and spit it out in English. And you know, and get it on a very accurate problem. In this case, it's pipelines and you know, welding
Get things
or
flowing.
whatever,
Yeah.
and machinery. But I mean, you know, we do the same for Philips Medical with MRI machines, and we do the same for ABB Robotics and Cummins Diesel and General Motors and all of that. So it's the ability again so the applications are so incredible. The optimization capabilities. AI is a machine that can predict the future, that can analyze data patterns and predict the future in ways that is not humanly possible. So it has it's ambient. It has ramifications everywhere.
So much of what you just mentioned is analyzable in a new way, and you can stitch it together, as you say, to come out with something. Can you analyze almost every piece of data that's out there?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's incredible.
And now data coming from machines.
Can you analyze
also.
an emoji? Happy, sad, thumbs
I
up?
think you can just take a snapshot of an emoji and throw it in ChatGPT. It will spit out
It'll
and
do
will
it
say
for
the
you.
emoji is happy. Yeah, it will
Yeah.
interpret that.
It'll put it
I don't
into
see that
the
as
whole
an
system.
issue.
That's an easy one. Why is your company called Coveo?
We had a company named Taleo. This one is called Coveo. Laurent founded a company called Copernic Technologies before, so
This is
it's,
your
it's
partner
an
in
amalgamate.
business? Okay.
Yeah, Laurent
Yeah.
Simoneau was the founder of Coveo. I was originally the angel investor.
Okay.
And so no particular reason. EO in Greek means emerge and innovate and something like that, I think.
Very good.
Some etymology.
I think that sounds very philosophical and brilliant. How come you stayed in Canada? Your previous company listed actually on the. I mean, you could have gone to
My
Silicon
two previous
Valley.
companies listed on the NASDAQ. I think you know, my kids. I actually turned down when we took my former company Taleo public on the NASDAQ in 2005. Turned down the ask from the board to move to San Francisco with my family. I wanted my kids to be Canadians. I'm a proud Canadian. I'm happy to be Canadian now, I will say, read between the lines.
Sure.
And I've got amazing friends in the US and elsewhere in the world. But yeah, born here, grew here. I believe in this country. I love the Canadian values, and I'm here to stay.
And you're going to help make sure it can't be turned off. One final question. This is on trade because it's something that's coming up. the countries are going to be sitting down at tables, they have been for some time, to discuss all aspects of trade, lots of different things. How does AI come into this conversation in a not perfect world, but realistically, how should it come into this trade conversation, if at all?
Well, I think again, we already talked about sovereignty. This cannot be compromised, first of all. So I'm going to start with what cannot be compromised. Is that. Number two is everything around IP and ownership. We need to start really building an owner's economy in digital. We have not been. As I said earlier, we were proud when Google came here and hired our talent and paid top people here. We imported the salary inflation. We imported the talent scarcity for our own businesses. We exported the value out of our education to foreign shareholders, and there was a net impoverishment. When you think about it mathematically, I think now we need to. It's about being the owners of our IP, being the owners of our talent, and using that within our economy, using our data centers. It's not about building a data center here and connecting 80 megawatts, as I said. It's about what's the workload within the data center.
Inside. And is it Canadian?
Is it creating value in Canada? For owners in Canada. It doesn't mean we don't co-invest. It doesn't mean we don't welcome other investors with us, and et cetera. But who runs? Who governs? Who controls? Who has the switch?
So we have to put Canada first. I have to tell you, there's a chat feature going on here. You're getting tons of love in the chat. They want you to come back. So can you just promise that you will at some point come back on this discussion?
Invite me. It's always an interesting conversation, and I will say I don't pretend to have the truth. It's a complex topic, but
glad to have you weigh in. My goodness,
glad to talk to you.
Good luck with all of your endeavors. We look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Pamela.
Thanks for watching or listening to the Fidelity Connects podcast. Now, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Fidelity Connects on your podcast platform of choice. And if you like what you're hearing, please leave a review or a 5-star rating. Fidelity mutual funds and ETFs are available by working with a financial advisor or through an online brokerage account. Visit fidelity.ca/howtobuy for more information. While on fidelity.ca, you can also find more information on future live webcasts. And don't forget to follow Fidelity Canada on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We'll end today's show with a short disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Fidelity Investments Canada ULC or its affiliates. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as investment, tax, or legal advice. It is not an offer to sell or buy, or an endorsement, recommendation, or sponsorship of any entity or securities cited. Read a fund's prospectus before investing. Funds are not guaranteed. Their values change frequently and past performance may not be repeated. Fees, expenses, and commissions are all associated with fund investments. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.